This is Hannibal here, and today we have a returning guest, none other than former UFC champion, UFC Hall of Famer, former WWE superstar, NWA World Champion, none other than Dan the Beast Severn, coming to us from Michigan, the
Yes.
fighting state of Michigan,
Yep. And we're here.
on an island. Can you
Yes, I'm a unique property. Again, just for your viewers there, I'll just do the quick little panoramic little view. This is my front off my front porch here. What my view looks like. A little bit of clutter on the front yard right now because we do have a air conditioning and heating combination unit that's being installed right now. So you might hear some buzzing or some hammering periodically in the background.
How's the weather in Michigan this time of year?
It's beautiful. It's I'll say that it has been a very uncanny, wet spring and summer thus far. It's I don't think I remember it quite being as wet as it has been here in the Howell vicinity. On days where it says there's not going to be any rain whatsoever, it rains, and and other days when it's supposed to rain, it rains. So it's just been one of those seasons where it's been quite wet, which is fine if you're a duck or a goose or a fish, but I'm not. So I like to be outdoors and doing things. That's why I said just by sitting out here and just doing this podcast there with you there, Hannibal, it's it's nice. It's very rewarding.
Do you fish or anything off of that, off of the lake you have there?
I have all of the tackle. I've got probably 3 or 4 fishing poles, rods, and that, all the different types of lures. And, like if my kids bring over like my grandkids, I do stuff with the grandkids there just to simply show them that I'll go out there and I'll take like an old piece of bread or something like that, and I just rip off little pieces and I throw it out just off of the seawall. And the fish are so used to me now that, literally, if they just almost see me out there, they're almost like trained pets for the fact they're like going, "Well, what you got for us today?" And so they'll come around and I'll throw a few breadcrumbs out there and I'll just pull out a net and I'll just drop the net down in water, just let it sit there, and I throw a few more pieces of bread crumbs up above where the net is sitting. And then as the fish are coming in and hit there, I just lift the net on up and I get the whole little water there for my grandkids there just to touch and squeal and stuff like that. And then I just I'm like, should we chop them up and eat them? And like, no. Okay, well, should we put them back in water? Yes. And I go, okay, and I just put them back in water. So that's the kind of fishing that I do, because it's kind of like going, do I want to go through all the work of gutting them, cleaning them, and then cooking them on up? No, I'll just go and order myself some fish at the local restaurant.
When you used to live on a farm, what type of animals would your family deal with, and would you have to gut them and clean them?
Yes. Yeah, you learn. It was a 120 acre farm, of which 80 of it was probably tillable, and the rest of it was woods and creeks and things of that nature. So, growing up, kind of like a Tom Sawyer type of aspect, where building forts, having having like a rope swing over the creek and things of that nature were pretty commonplace. But then even growing up, fishing, hunting all time of year. It wasn't until I think junior high that there was a flyer going around about a hunting class coming on up, and it was like a hunting class. I go, what's that all about? And they're like, well, again, that's what they said, that they'll teach you how to hunt and stuff like that. I go, well, don't. I said, by that time, I'd already been hunting for who knows how many years there with my father. And I said, what do you mean you got to go to a safety gun class? I said, then everybody's father just teach them how to use shotguns, 22s, just things of that nature. But it's just, there's just a big difference between, as I was growing up, I learned more and more. There's a big difference between, say, city kids and country kids. Of course, then there's inner city kids that they might know a lot more about weaponry than what some of the country folk there. But we're talking about AR-50s and a few other things there. Yeah.
Well, we always hear about how dangerous Detroit is. How is the rest of Michigan overall as far as being a safe state to live in?
I mean, I travel almost every weekend somewhere. Now, I can't say it's all around the state of Michigan, but I do travel a great deal. And to me, it's like, I think every place has some good areas and some bad areas. Now, I mean, I can regale you in a few different stories at different times that I remember going to. I remember going to a high school over in the Detroit area, and it was shocking because I'd already worked with law enforcement for a number of years at that point in time on a ground combatives class that I used to teach, and a couple of the officers had found out that I was going to be coming into town, and they literally they told me that if you come to a stop sign or a stop light, they're like, start to slow down, but do not stop. There have been so many carjackings that don't stop at a stop sign and don't even stop at a red light. They're like, just keep moving. And I'm like going, wow. When an officer tells you that, that speaks volumes to you, you know.
Yeah, I don't think it's that bad anywhere in Canada yet, but maybe Toronto area has a few places like that.
Yeah. Again, I'm going a number of years back. So, I mean, things may have improved in those areas. I like to think that people, hopefully, they start to wake up and well, the line my father would say would be like, son, wake up and die right, you know. I would hope that people would think about what they're doing more and more, but I don't know. I mean, I run into stupidity, seems like all the time, or again, just turn on any radio station, listen to some news or watch the news on television, and you hear about stupidity all the time.
Were you surprised about Matthew Granahan, the king of Connecticut, passing away a couple weeks ago? Because I know you were one of the guys he called quite often.
Yeah, well, and it was. I'm still on. There's a string of people, and I mean, even as you just asked that question, I'm just hopping over here real quick to see. No, I don't have any more newest updates, but I'd already had a couple text messages even from earlier today, because there's they're really going into a lot of question as to, was this actually a suicide? And again, when people were suggesting, I'm thinking the guy never had any, I mean, he might bitch and complain here or there, but I mean the same standard bitch and complaint that most people would have in life. But I kiddingly said, I would believe it if it was a jealous husband that maybe had shot him or something like that. But suicide, no, never. So I just, I'm just curious as to, has he had any recent physicals, examination? Did he have any kind of terminal disease or I have no idea. So last I know, there is some sort of a investigation that is taking place, and I don't know what the current results are of that.
Yeah, it was strange because I filmed an independent movie here in Kansas last week, and the last communication I had with him was 2 weeks prior to that. He sent me his plane ticket to show me, hey, I'm actually going to this. Don't fill this role. I'm going to do it. So to me, he's the type of guy that he would have at least done the role and then maybe killed himself, just because he's the type that would like to have himself remembered. So I just found that a little weird that he'd actually go and buy the plane ticket.
Well, I mean, if you don't mind me asking, what kind of a movie did you just put together?
He was going to be playing a police in it. It was kind of like a wrestling / vampire one. Tank Abbott, your good friend Tank Abbott, was actually in the movie.
What kind of a character role did he play in that?
He played a barroom fighter.
Oh, gosh, that was a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, maybe they're still editing it, but maybe if there's ever a part 2, we'll give you a call, because
that's funny. I mean, I would imagine everyone was very professional on the film set. So
Yes, but it's as chaotic as a wrestling show as far as show days. I thought it might be a little bit easier, but some of these actors are just like wrestlers to have to deal with, and they can be divas. I thought it'd be easier than independent wrestling, but it certainly wasn't.
no,
I learned a
no
lesson there. You can who
personalities.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but who are some of the biggest divas you've seen in wrestling? Yeah, I mean, you don't have to say their names. I'm sure
I
you.
mean, no, I mean, have I encountered them? Sure, I've encountered different people that just, you know, they they took their role, but it's just like they soon forgot. Just like what you're saying, where does fantasy end and reality begin? It's kind of like when they start. Well, again, I'll just discuss like Sabu just recently, passed away. And again, I'm not here to speak ill about the deceased, but it was kind of ironic that when he's playing this character of Sabu, that's not his real name, and yet and even had his mother referring to him as Sabu, and I'm like going, wow, that was just kind of strange to me that you would have your siblings and your parents referring to you as the same character. So I was like, well, I mean, if it works for you and it's what you want to do, that's fine. It wouldn't have flown in my family.
And he was about as charming in real life as he was as his wrestling character. I can attest to that.
Yeah,
But
well, no, again, there are certain things about that industry that a lot of athletes. I refer to them as athletes because when you look at all the athletic maneuvers that they do, it's incredible. Now, for the fact that you already know what the outcome is going to be. Well, I should say at least the wrestlers do. I mean, it's up to you and I to go out there and to entertain them. You're going to simply take on your role, whether you're the baby face or the heel. And there's certain things you're supposed to be doing as a baby face, as there's certain things that a heel will end up doing, and to get your characters across. And the whole aspect is you're playing these characters, like using WWE as a perfect example. They run weekly shows, these storylines that are leading up to monthly pay-per-views. And they have to have a number of different performers, aka wrestlers, doing these because in the course of from 1 month to the next month, is someone going to get hurt? More than likely. Why? Aren't they professionals? Well, they're supposed to be, but some of them get caught up into that character, and maybe they cease to continue their training. They cease to, continue to lift weights if they did that nature, and so they're maybe not as proficient in their technique, or maybe they're getting weaker as they get older, or just I'm throwing out a few different examples right there. But I always tell people that in my career, being both as a amateur wrestler, professional wrestler, cage fighter, that I've been hurt far worse in the wacky world of professional wrestling than I have in the other two categories. And I have way more matches in the other two categories. So,
do you think now that they're only wrestling maybe twice a month, because technically there is shows every week, but they don't necessarily have matches on every show? I've heard some people say that because their body is not used to the grind, they get hurt easier than if they were wrestling 4 times a week, like when you were doing it.
well, again, I couldn't tell you that. It just depends on what they're doing in that free time. I mean, I still think that it's a product show. So, going to the gym, doing things, but then going to a professional wrestling gym so that you can at least go through the routines. You're not going to go at it hard, but again, going through the routines of keep doing these refreshers. I mean, for example, I've got a couple of different promoters that are pondering a few things there for me, and I says, well, I'll be able to let you know after this coming weekend. I need to stop by and go to my gym and do a few different things inside my training facility just to make certain that I can perform them adequately. I don't want me. I take great pride in the fact that I've never hurt anyone in professional wrestling. I take great care of my opponent. Now, again, it looks mean, it looks vicious what I'm doing, but at the same token, no, I'm taking care of them the way you're supposed to.
The one thing I liked about wrestling you is some people you chop and they like will fold or they'll get mad at you. You could tell that you're used to being in real fights because the chop is just nothing to you.
Oh no! To me, it's like you want to neck. Well, again, you can cup your hand, you can get a nice pop off of that chop, but at the same token, it's kind of going. That's a big meaty area. Chop that puppy. You got that big pectoral type of an area. Chop that puppy. You know, lay it in there. I actually like it when I see people get into those little chop fests.
You have like very thick, almost like pig skin. I describe it as.
Well, I think it's getting a little thinner as I get older. That's all.
Yeah. Someone says, as your doctor, he recommends you staying away from Don Fry.
Now, would that be a medical practitioner or would that be a psychiatrist? They're saying that one.
I don't know. He's calling himself Fart Doctor for whatever that's worth.
Well, well, I try to converse with Don on a very regular basis. I mean, I try to touch a base with Don, probably 2-3 times a week, if not more. It's just out of that camaraderie, respect, things of that nature. But we've got a number of projects, and I know it's good to keep Don Fry busy. Otherwise, he might get himself into a little bit of mischief.
Yes. And as far as Mark Coleman, did you ever find out what caused that fire that was in his house?
No, I mean it was like that. Well, first off, I mean not until that actually took place did I actually know that his parents lived right next to him. I kept thinking, wow, that's most people when they get out on their own, they try to move a little bit further away from mom and dad because maybe they were just
yeah, you don't want those visitors every day.
Yeah, especially if you're married and you have your better half, you don't want to hear. There's certain noises that you'll want to hear from your parents' bedroom, the same way that you want your parents should not want to hear noises from their kids' bedrooms. So it's like going, hey, that was strange. I mean, I was, for the fact that he ran into a burning, smoking built home and then to get his parents out. That was very admirable of him. But I mean, I wouldn't be living next door. I mean, I look at it this way. Well, again, both my parents are gone, and in that final short time frame that they were in really bad shape. I mean, family was around them at all times. I mean, it was. I was the one that during the work week, that Monday through roughly Friday, I could handle things. But then Friday, once one of my other siblings was off work, they came in, tag, they're in. I'm gone for the weekend because I could easily manipulate my schedule as long as I had my laptop, my planner, my cell phone there with me. I'm a business that's happy. It's kind of like, even like right now, I've got my laptop right here. I've still got my business planner. I've still got my cell phone laying over here. I'm a business and I'm making things happen.
Someone wants to know if you're going to go see the Mark Kerr movie. I think they use Mark Coleman as a consultant on that one at one point. The Rock is playing Mark Kerr.
Yes. I mean, I heard all about the Smashing Machine. And when it finally does come out, I will probably see it at some point just to kind of see. Because I know, I'll be curious as to knowing what all parts are going to come out of in that movie because Mark kind of went through a transition of some highs and some lows through that. So we'll see if the Rock can pull it through. Something tells me there won't be much of a stretch for The Rock there. But
No. And what do you think about Mark Kerr's career? Because he had it all at one point, and as you said, you're one of the ones that never succumbed to the dark side of the
well,
painkillers and everything.
well, it's there was just a whole group of they're amateur wrestlers. They're all amateur wrestlers that jumped into the cage fighting. And I think they were like, team smashing machine / or team. No, what is Mark Coleman calls himself? Team.
Team Hammerhouse.
Yeah, the Hammerhead Squad. Yeah. And it's like going, whew. I mean, and one of the most physical specimens of them all, Kevin Randleman, who unfortunately is no longer there with us, but Kevin Randleman, I mean, they're all such physical specimens, and it's, there's things that you could do by eating those right fruits, vegetables, and taking in enough protein and stuff like that. And there's things that you could do by chemistry. And I think chemistry had a lot to do with some things.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it seemed someone told me that was in UFC even as recently as a few years ago, they were able to get away with some stuff. So I'm not exactly sure how the testing works even today, because we do hear about people still getting caught, but I don't know if it depends state to state what regulations you have to abide by or what.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I because I ran so many different shows myself at different times, I was dealing with different state by state, the different requirements, and it was almost ludicrous. It's kind of like going, why don't you guys talk with each other? Maybe bring in a couple of their athletes as consultants, and let's try to get this narrowed down a little bit more. I mean, because again, I was doing so many different things. I was between professional wrestling, 2-3 weekends out of a month, and then doing one cage fight a month. I was being drug tested every 30 days. It had to be 30 days or less of a test. So I mean, I kept getting tested time and time again. Yeah, and you have to watch out certain products that you put in your body because it could easily pop you. I mean, there's certain antihistamines in that could actually make you pop then as well.
That's one thing you and Tank Abbott have in common. I don't think either of you ever took anything.
Might be the only thing Tank Abbott and I have in common.
Yeah, from that era, anyways.
Tank would rather just have a couple of barley pops and then go into the cage.
Yeah, and he ended up paying for that, sadly, but I think he learned his lesson now.
I thought of all people, he would have had a beer sponsor before anybody else.
Yes, that's a good point. He didn't care. He didn't care enough to go after the sponsors, perhaps. Someone's asking what it was like teaming with Antonio Inoki in 1996.
Well, I mean, at the time, I probably didn't think as much about it at the time because I was a working machine. I was staying busy to keep a roof over my family's head and food on the table. And that's where, just to back up a little bit, I would have never probably gotten involved with the cage fighting or professional wrestling had things gone the way that they should have gone for me. Because I even though I own this home down in Coldwater, Michigan, it was all based upon a job opportunity. I actually have a degree from Arizona State University. I'm as a teacher, but it's all in the technical aspects of shop classes. So again, I'm like your basic shop teacher, except that I have all my appendages. You always have that shop teacher that goes, watch out for that table saw. It will get you, But it's I enjoyed going into the teaching class, and then literally I was just I think 3 classes shy of my master's before job opportunity took me from Arizona State to Michigan State, and that's where it was way ahead of the internet era at that time period. So that's where my master's died on the vine was because I left from Arizona State and took a job at Michigan State. Again, I was just coaching at that time, but then when I finally decided I'm going to get out of the coaching wrestling aspect, because monetarily I wasn't making any money. I was at Arizona State. I think I was making $3,000 a year, and so I was working a full-time job on top of being an assistant wrestling coach. And when I took the job at Michigan State, I'm making $20,000 a year. So I go, wow, I'm rich, but but the dollar did go a lot further back then as well. Homes were a whole lot cheaper. I think my home that I bought back in Owasso, Michigan, I think it was like all of maybe, I think, gosh, was it even $50,000, $60,000, somewhere in that range? I'm thinking you can't touch any kind of these homes like that now. But I think I kind of went off kilter here a little bit there.
Were you a pro wrestling fan before going into pro wrestling? What made you take that route?
The fact that I had a couple of different companies that were approaching me already on the independent circuit. It wasn't like WCW wasn't approaching me, WWF wasn't approaching me. It just some smaller companies. And when like I said, when I relocated to Coldwater, Michigan, and I went to work, I mean, literally in a 2-week time frame, I sold a home, I bought a home. I had 3 different realtors looking for a home, and knowing that whoever gets that purchase finds the home there for me, there's a bonus on top of over and above what their normal fee was good, because I needed something quickly. So I'll simply say that got there, and I got basically I've still got the boxes, but I'm there. I went to work, and at the end of the first week, I did not have a job. And I mean, this is all back in that 1992 time frame. Yeah, I'm still trying to make the 1992 Olympic team for freestyle wrestling and that. And I mean, just my world was just turned upside down. And I needed to put food on the table and keep a roof over the head. So I see a flyer for Tough Man contest. I had never been in a boxing match in my life. And literally, I'm still there. I know there's got to be footage of that, because Art Door, again, he's long gone, but Art Door, the creator of the Tough Man, this stuff was always being filmed. So I know someone has that somewhere in there. But I mean, I didn't even know how to hold my gloves. All these other guys that are showing up there, they got either boxing trunks on, or they got athletic shorts on and tank tops and that on. And here I am wearing an amateur wrestling singlet. And I'm wearing amateur wrestling shoes because they look much like boxing shoes. So I'm wearing amateur wrestling shoes, amateur wrestling singlet. And I mean, my hair's, nice and dark at that time. And my mustache, I mean, I look like John L. Sullivan the way I'm holding my hands out there. I didn't, not knowing what I'm doing. And, there's only 2 weight classes in Tough Man. I think it's like 190 pounds and under. And then there's anything over. Well, I'm in the category of anything over. But I had already started my professional wrestling training, and I got there early enough to where I'm watching them set up the ring, and I realized they're setting up a professional wrestling ring. And I'm thinking, I already know the dynamics of how to use this ring. So I'm out there at this first big old hoss out there. He's trying to throw a couple big old haymakers. I'm like, I just literally just ran right into him, hit him with both gloves. I've got him backpedaling, hit him about the middle of the ropes, knowing that we're about to see this little rubber band effect. It's going to go, wah, and then it's going to come right back into me. So as I push him in, all of a sudden, as I feel it come right back in, I wrap my hands right around to him, and I use the rope set to help me launch him through the air, comes crashing down, hit that canvas, and I mean, just skids his face all up, and he's all discombobulated, laying on the thing. Looks like he's like knocked out cold, and the crowd simply explodes. And I'm thinking I'm about to be disqualified. I look down at Art Door. He looks up at me. He hears the crowd in the background, picks up the microphone, looks right back at me again, goes, "Well, throw him again. I'm like, oh, game on, I can do this. So it was 2 days because Tough Man during that time frame they would do a one night on a Friday night, and then Saturday then they would run everything else, all the rest of the matches through until completion. So I always tell people that 2 days, 5 men later, newfound skills.
Are you familiar at all with this Gable Steveson, Olympic gold medalist now? He's starting next month, I believe, in less than a month in MMA on a small show in Minnesota.
I probably seen maybe the same clips that you might have seen onto it that have been forwarded on to me. I just have a number of people that will forward me different clips of this and clips of that because I know I'm big into amateur wrestling. I mean, to see, I did watch his final NCAA match. Well, I should say I saw one of his matches because I mean it was one where he was celebrating and he did a standing backflip. Now to see a heavyweight do a standing backflip, now that takes some really athletic and plyometrics skills to go along there with it. So I'm thinking, well, you got a very athletic heavyweight, and wrestlers have done very well in MMA to begin with. So when you look at what sport the leading competitor that is currently in, like the Ultimate Fighting Championships or in mixed martial arts in general, and you can simply see where the amateur wrestler, whereas in the beginning it was Gracie Jiu-Jitsu that was being franchised, so a lot of BJJ guys were there, but now the tide has changed to where when you look at the top 5 or 6 people per weight class, you'll see quite a few of them that are from the sport of amateur wrestling, and most of your current champions again reign from the sport of amateur wrestling as well.
Do you regret that you didn't follow through with the brawl for all, with how much is still talked about these days? Because you probably would have stood a better chance against Butterbean than Mark Gunn.
No, I mean I had him. I mean the funny thing is that when they made this announcement in the first place, again, we're at a show. I don't remember it, but we're at a show for WWF at the time, and a lot of the different agents, they just simply gathered up all the different wrestlers that come on into the whatever building we're in. There was always a cafeteria type area. So we gathered all into the cafeteria area. And when he first made the announcement, they're like going, they're saying with this brawl for all type of concept. And they're like, the only 2 people that are not involved into this will be Ken Shamrock and Dan Severn. And I go, as soon as that's been said, I'm standing somewhere near one of the agents. I go, well, do I need to, if I'm not involved in this, do I even need to listen to this name? I said, no, you're excused. So I didn't pay no attention. I left and went and did my other stuff. And then this goes on for several weeks. And then all of a sudden, another one of the road agents comes up to me and just says, hey, he says, you're in the brawl for all. And I go, I said, well, I am. I thought I'm not supposed to be. I said, well, you could be in. And I said, well, against who and how much? They just basically gave me a name, gave me a price tag. And I go, that's fine. I said, but I don't want to wear gloves. And like, well, you can't go out there bare knuckle. I go, I will never throw a single punch, and I will show you what a real wrestler can do. And, again, they did not allow me to go out there just bare knuckled. I had to, wear gloves. So I kept thinking, even if I got out there, I should have had one of the referees that go, hey, it's part of the storyline angle. Just take the gloves off, But I mean, you can always second guess, after the fact.
Someone on here wants to know, who was your favorite road agent in WWE?
I couldn't even come up with any of their names here right now. I just there's like I don't know, 4, 5, 6 of them at the time, and they just all had different input. But then at the same token, you would think that the creative team, how many different people are involved with the creative team? Again, I would think that the road agents on top of the creative team, on top of Vince Russo was a big proponent in there as well. But then you got even the powers be that own the company. You think that they'll have some type of input. I just wish I had maybe realized that I had more control over my own destiny. I kept thinking, well, gosh, this company's been going on for how many years? From Vince Senior to Vince Jr. And it's still going on now. And I'm thinking, you think that they have the template that should have been cut out to where they should kind of know. And I kind of put my destiny into their hands, where if there was something I could go back in time and do, but I don't have that time machine. Can't do that. But I would have done some things differently. But then how would that have changed as to where am I at today?
Yes, and you're still alive, which is better than a lot of your contemporaries.
Exactly. Better to be above ground than below ground. Yes.
Now, I know you can't answer this, but someone wants to know, why did Ken Shamrock get the big push in WWE and you didn't get quite the big push? Was there a reason?
Again, I would simply just say that when you look at the difference between both of us physique wise, Ken is, he's all muscled on up, and you two kids could be muscled on up if you just you take your vitamins and drink your milk and I'll just ironically say it like that, because again, there's certain things you could do. There's certain gifts that you could get from your parents. Okay, there are certain gifts. That you can give yourself by working hard in the gym, eating right, and the whole 9 yards. And then there's all kinds of other stuff that you could do just if you have a nice little chemistry lab. So there's different routes of what you can do to achieve, but then you don't see a whole lot of bodybuilders that live to a ripe old age.
No, and Hogan, I mean, he passed away at 71, but there was a lot of people saying that they're surprised he even made it that long with some of the supplements he took.
Well, it's funny. I mean, Hannibal, you'd be involved in professional wrestling. It's kind of a sick and twisted type of a work area, a profession. There's even different. I would hear different groups talking as to how long they would think this person would live, how long that person would live, and I'm thinking, wow, they're actually taking wagers on people that are still alive right now, but they're not giving them all that many more years above them, and they're not going to be dying of age old. They just got too old, and their heart finally gave out. Well, their heart might be giving out in different reasons because they're packing on way too much muscle, and they're taking they might be snorting a line of this or that and the whole 9 yards, and then like going and gone poof.
Yeah, and who would have guessed? Even Billy Graham outlived Hogan by about 9 years, but he wasn't doing the snorting stuff. He was definitely doing the steroids, But yeah, I think it's a good lesson what you're saying there, that overall it seems to catch up to the more of the bodybuilders one sooner. So if you're younger looking at the longevity issues, I mean, there's a reason the Road Warriors didn't live into their 70s, sadly.
Yeah, no, again, that's where you just got to look at how a lot of these athletes and how did they pass and due to what? So it's my goal is still 125.
There you go. Now, someone's asking here a good question. Eric Bischoff's Real American Wrestling, Hulk Hogan was involved with it. It seems to have lost pretty much all of its steam since the passing of Hogan, but I understand Kurt Angle's still involved, Chael Sonnen. What do you make of this? The chances.
Well, I tried to. I had it must be an old email address for Eric. I just wanted to reach out to simply find out a little bit more about it, and if it was again, I want to find out more about it to see, do I really want to be involved in this, and if it is something that is legit, that I would like to be involved with. If this is just something that's gonna, because I heard different things about their storylines, stuff like that going through. I'm thinking, to me, this looks like professional wrestling posing as amateur wrestling. So I'm like going, I don't know if I want to be involved in that. So again,
Yeah.
I was looking to try to find out more about it first, and I was fortunate enough to be at Eric's home at one point in time, but I had a big time computer glitch, and I lost quite a few names, phone numbers. I lost my entire database, which was pretty extensive at the time.
So somebody let Eric Bischoff know that Dad does not have his contact information.
Yeah, I would like to know more about it just to see if it makes sense to be involved with it. And again, if there is actually an invitation to be involved with it as well, because maybe they do, maybe they don't. I have no idea.
I can tell you from the clip I saw, and it was just a couple days before Hogan died. Eric Bischoff was on with a couple of amateur wrestlers on Fox talking about it, and it was very somber, as if Bischoff knew Hogan was almost going to die. But what I didn't get from it was any desire to watch these two amateur wrestlers. They didn't. They were lightweights for one thing, and I'm sure you're kind of like me as a heavyweight. You're not really that interested in lightweights, but they didn't really have a personality at all. And I know it's not pro wrestling, but give me some reason to want to watch this. It seemed very plain to me.
Well, see that's the way I thought it was going to be playing out. I actually thought, okay, is this going to be real amateur wrestling, and they're just going to be trying to teach these amateur wrestlers how to be more of a character. Again, whether you want to play the babyface role, whether you want to play that heel role, it's the role I take on anymore is that crotchety old fart. Okay, that I'm just speaking my mind because maybe I'm losing my mind there anymore. So it's like going,
I think they should get like a guy like you in there against somebody. I know that us old school fans would like to see that, even though you probably don't want to do that at this
no,
age.
no,
I'd
no.
love to see you at Shamrock more than any of these young guys.
There's a market for it. I mean, honestly, I think you could put together it be underneath the umbrella of professional wrestling, but you could have this professional wrestling show that it's has something to do with the fight world. Okay, but it's the geriatrics league. Okay, so it's like now you got all these new and funnier type of rules. Like, well, they don't need mouthpieces; they're just going to pull their dentures out and put them over onto the apron. Okay, they have to have extra large hearing aids because they can't hear all the rules that the referee might be saying at different times. But like, you could get great sponsors like Depends and Just for Men and all kinds of sponsors like that. There would be so many comical errors that could be taking place with this. So again, I thought from a professional wrestling angle, there could be all kinds of funny things that could come from it.
Yeah, and I don't know what your take on it is, but it seems like in your day of UFC, maybe it's just because there's so many fighters now that it's hard to keep track, but everybody knew the fighters when it was you and Don Fry, Tank Abbott, and Ken Shamrock. Now I follow it, but I don't even know the majority of the fighters. It's just like they're not identifiable as they were when you guys were doing it.
Well,
What's your reason for that?
well, again, because there's too much content. Before, I think there was during that especially during the no holds barred era, they were running a show like once every three. I think it was once every 3 months, and so it was a big. There's a lot of build up towards it to do it every 3 months. Now the fact that you have a UFC event every single Saturday night, whether it's a pay-per-view event or not. Now they're running even these smaller dome shows.
The Apex, it only holds like 700 fans.
Yeah, but it's nicely done. They got great camera and interviews. I've happened to be there on 2 different occasions and watched the Apex shows. I'm thinking there's not a bad seat in the house at all. So, but it's just a scaled down type of way.
Apparently, I don't know if you've heard, but they're building like a 5,000 seat version of the Apex on those grounds. that's
Yeah,
also
no,
going to hold
no,
us.
the UFC in itself, what a well-oiled machine. I mean, they're kicking out content. I mean, when you look at how many different influencers that they have, I mean, it's all kinds of influencers that they're, I mean, helping to get the word out. There's again, I always used to tell them, wait, 15 years back or so, it was you'd have all these people like going, what Dan, do you think UFC's got the best fight or something like that? I go, no. I go, and I'm not trying to put down the people that are there right now, but you got to look at, I go, as an amateur wrestler, a freestyle wrestler, a Greco-Roman wrestler, I've been to all of these remote corners of the world. And I go, and as I'm speaking to you right now, there's some kid up on the mountainside protecting his flock of sheep and goats and stuff like that, and all that he has is a club, and there's 2 or 3 wolves that are circling his little flock right there, and he knows he's got to kill these 2 or 3 wolves with a club, otherwise his old man's going to kick his ass for letting the family get to their. I mean, this is their food line. This is their food, but how they probably generate their income from the skins of these animals, being so resourceful. I mean, all the pelts that what they're going to turn those into, but also the meat, the milk. I grew up on a farm. One of my jobs for half a dozen years was milking Peggy the milk cow. So it's like going. It was kind of ironic there because it's like, between my father worked in the automotive industry, and I mean, he did everything that he was supposed to do, but then he had things lined up first chores wise. Well, okay, what we're supposed to be doing, plowing these fields, and for what to do. So when we came to the weekend, and on weekends that we weren't wrestling, which weren't a whole lot of those, but the weekend was. And even during the work week, you still got to get your chores done, but you're still out there tilling the soil. You're picking corn. You're doing all this stuff. And even if you saw the size of the garden that we planted, I mean, half an acre of sweet corn alone that we'd be putting in. So all kinds of stuff. We had irrigation systems because if it was a droughtful type summer, we would be putting the irrigation system into the creek, and then we just run the piping up to the garden, and we would water the garden, again, big garden from the creek itself. So stuff that we were doing, again, decades back. And now a lot of farmers are realizing, okay, need to put in irrigation systems, stuff like that. Well,
100%. Jeremy says, "Did you ever throw a single leg kick in the UFC?" I don't think I ever saw it.
Maybe if I was falling down or something like that, I tried to throw a kick in the process. No, I was. Yeah, I mean, honestly, and again, just to say to Jeremy and anyone else out there, when you really look back at my career and know that I only did two true training camps in a 20-year career. And I say that were literally, I took out at one point 32 days of my life, and 35 days of my life, I left my family behind. I went out to Arizona. I stayed by myself, ate by myself. There's the running and stuff like that I was doing by myself, lifting. But then I had to get with bodies. So I did two true training camps in my entire career. And everything else, like the game plans. I didn't have no one else coming up with game plans for me. It was what I came up for myself. So just by, because there was no internet to look at. I can't simply just Google, where's some matches that I can find, and there was nothing to find at that time. You would show up on a Friday night, and you would see the other 7 men, because women weren't competing at that time frame. You'd meet the other 7 contestants because it was an 8-man tournament, 3 fights in basically a 2-hour pay-per-view. And 2-hour pay-per-view. and they did not have filler material at that point because they didn't have the again there was no foresight at that point. They didn't know how long a match would last. This was during the era of no time limits. And again, only the two rules of no biting, no eye gouging, and even then, they were more like okay guidelines. They weren't necessarily enforced, but it was.
Speaking of which, how did you get along with McCartney? Just because I know that there's Coleman and Tank Abbott felt they got screwed by John McCartney a couple times. Did you
Really,
get
I
along
mean,
well with him? Because
no,
they seem to indicate the rules would differ depending on how much he liked you.
oh no. I mean, I got along just fine with John. I mean, it was. I always tell people the first time that I met Big John, because that's how I always knew him. I was Big John McCarthy. Big John McCarthy. The referee, number one referee, and because again he was a good physical size and stature, and then to find out he's from a law enforcement type of a background. So I always tell people the first time I met Big John was inside the octagon, and it was as a participant, and basically comes up to you, and he's very authoritative the way he speaks to you, and then he's looking for some kind of acknowledgement that if you're in trouble, he's going to be looking for you. He's going to be saying, to prepare, if you want to get out the tap or whatever. And he was really good about explaining what would be done. And always at the end of each explanation, he like, are there any questions? And then the very first time he says that to me, are there any questions? I can't think of anything. And just as he's about to turn away, it just a little goofy little line came in my mind, and I simply said out loud, I go, where did all that money go that my parents paid for piano lessons? And he said he heard it, but when he turned back and looked at me, he could have came out for me because I had my game face on at that time. And then, so match number 2, same night, match number 2, he's coming over, and the same lines come. I know what's about to come. He simply hits me with that line again. Are there any questions at the end? And I'm simply, I look around and go, yes. If you just give me the winning lotto ticket numbers, I wouldn't have to do this shit. And he looks at me, like going, this is the same guy that said the same crazy one-liner before. They think that I'm nuts. Talks to his wife, who was also was doing the travel for the UFC at that time, because this guy's crazy. He's telling me one-liners before he started to do it, but then he comes to find out more and more about me. That no, I'm a pretty level-headed person, but I just my way of just simply keeping calm and composed through it. Just come up with silly little one-liners to the point that I think he expected something to come out of me at all points. Even with Ken Shamrock, I'll bore you with one more story. I'm fighting Ken Shamrock to where I think this was found. I don't know if it's fight number 1, fight number 2. All I know is he had a mount on me, and I think it was in a mount position for a couple minutes. And every time that, because I prepared with other people that, okay, if I get caught in a mount, what's the best way for me to try to take some type of a physical toll on them when they're even on top? And again, all I did, I just kept. And once he tried to push off and then come up and just rain on down, I just simply held on to his lats. So every time he tried to push out the flooring and lift on up to the rain on down, he's actually having to lift me up there with them. And I'm being like a parasite from below. I'm taking a physical toll on him. But during this time, as Big John is kind of walking around and watching things, I see his feet out of the corner of my left eye right there. I see his feet. And I pop out from underneath Ken's body, and I look right up at him. I go, it's a hell of a way to make a buck. And I pop right back underneath. And I think John was shaking his head. And Ken hears it. Ken freaked out. It broke his concentration for just a moment to where I reversed him, and then I rained on his parade. So I'll just say that there was – I meant it just to be a joke to Big John right there. But the fact that I'm in a serious contest and still can think this way, it's like going, sometimes I think even my better half thinks that maybe I might have 1 or 2 screws loose.
Yeah, like when I had amateur matches, if it was someone I thought was really tough, I would almost want to talk to them first to break the ice, but if it was someone I thought I could beat, I would try to intimidate them. Were you like that at all, or did it
No,
matter to you
no,
when it was?
I didn't. I mean, most of the time, I never met my opponents beforehand. So again, the first time you meet them, it would be inside of a cage. Again, that's for the UFC, and then other even the other countries that I went to. I mean, there's just been different types of situations where it's like going. I'm trying to think. I was in Brazil at one point in time. I did a couple of different fights in Brazil, but for one particular event, I'm there in Brazil, and in the last 24 hours, my opponent had changed 3 or 4 times, and to the point that I don't even know who I'm fighting now. All I know is that they led me out to the cage first, and I'm in there, and now the Brazilians are coming, and I'm thinking, well, pretty soon I'm gonna find out who my opponent is because only one of them gets to climb in here, and then hopefully, I'm thinking myself, hopefully they make this announcement in both Portuguese, but then also in English, and which they did. So as the announcer is making the announcement in English, I finally understand what kind of a fighter am I going against? Am I going to go against a striker or more of a grappler? And again, I found out. So like I had mere seconds to formulate my game plan. And then it's kind of like going, referee's like, oh, ready, fight, So
It's not like that.
It's been an interesting ride when you look at all those kind of things. And those are some of some of the greatest stories. It's like, how many fighters would actually go on a trip like that and would allow to compete underneath those types of circumstances or situations?
Someone that's more business oriented than braids, I guess.
Well, I don't know. There's that times that I question my own sanity.
How was Al Snow, by the way, to train with? How would you rate him as a fighter? Because we've never really seen him as a fighter, but we always hear that he was one of your training partners.
Oh, I mean, yeah, no, Al was one of my training partners, and he was my first corner person ever. I mean, because I know that when people today, they see like an old clip from back then, they're like going, is that Al Sarvin, a.k.a. Al Snow? The guy that has head, and the mannequins had that. And
yeah, that was before head, right? Because head wasn't in the corner.
Yeah, way before. I mean, but Al is, I mean, he's got such a brilliant mind that even when he was working for WWF at the time, and he's part of the Job Squad, and he's coming up with he's very comical, but he's also quick-witted and how to come up with some ideas. So he comes up with the Job Squad. It's like going, pin me, pay me, and then the fact that he comes up with the mannequin's head on top of that. To me, he's just a genius of a mind that I just wish more success would have came to him a lot earlier on, because there's some people that they did well in their careers, but they weren't very kind people to be around. Al is a good guy and a kind person to be around, and again, just very quick-witted.
And he's a hard worker too.
Yeah.
I've used him and wrestled him. You'll get your money's worth out of Al. Not that he wrestles much anymore, but I hear he's doing pretty good in OVW.
Yeah, again, that's what he's carved his niche out there with OVW, and again, I'm happy for him.
What would you say his strength is as a real fighter and his weakness, if you were to rate him as a real fighter?
I mean, honestly, boy, I think Al, he had all the skills. I mean, it's kind of like going, I have to look at, I had to think of like, it's kind of like me going back in time, a younger Dan Severn, a younger Al Snow. It's, Al was a very good physical specimen on top. They always took care of himself, trained hard, good motivator. I was only seeing Al maybe twice a week. That's what I've seen him for. When I did do any kind of training, it was only 2 times a week that I would be able to travel down there. I mean, just looking at how much time I was losing to travel there, maybe get a couple hour workout in, but then it was up to the point that it was hard for Al to recruit people to do this kind of training inside of a professional wrestling ring, because he just had a professional wrestling ring that we did this in, because all it was getting used to compete in a confined area. I mean, the cage is nothing but a confined area, knowing that if we hit the ropes, well, we kind of had to kind of stop, because you don't want to have something that's going to fall between the ropes and stuff like that as well, and land out on the floor.
Do you remember, you probably don't remember this, but around 96 in Arnprior, Ontario, I was a kid, they brought you in to have like a grappling match against somebody. It was like in a farm town outside of Ottawa. And my dad was with me, and he said he was convinced it was a real match. I know that you warmed up before the show and stuff, and they sold it as if you were having a grappling match. It wasn't against like anyone that was known in wrestling, but I was just wondering if this was just like a nobody wrestler that wanted to fake a grappling match with you, or if you actually showed up there. It was called Arnprior Armageddon. The Bruiser was running the show. I think Brooklyn Brawler was on it. Jimmy Snuka was also on it.
I honestly, I couldn't tell you that. I mean, again, you always wonder, does somebody have any footage of that?
Yeah. So, the guy was blown up. I do remember, like, that was the one thing that was different. The guy seemed like, after he wrestled you, and I was just a kid then, he looked like he was completely gassed. And that was my dad, who wasn't really a wrestling fan. He was like, that was real. So I always wondered, but I just remember now to ask you.
Wow.
You wrestled so much
makes me wonder about that now too there as well, Devin. Yeah. It's like, wow.
It was a big guy too. It was like a big, like, he must have been 300 pounds, but you completely gassed him.
Yeah. No, but there's I do have a skill set knowing how to, I call it parasital, to where whether you're on top or if you're on bottom or whatever like that, I was always good about knowing how to take an energy toll. Again, that parlayed all through my amateur wrestling days. I always knew how to make you carry my weight, but then how to intensify that weight simply by driving forward with the legs, the feet, driving off the side of the amateur wrestling shoe, to where now you feel like, you make yourself way heavier, giving them, a lot more. You're exhausting them. I'll say it's a combination. It's a physical exhaustion, but then also it's working the body, but then also the mind. When you're starting to realize, gosh, I'm getting tired. Now psychologically, it's like going, I think now you start to second guessing yourself. You're like, I think I'm going to lose, because you're running out of oxygen. So I always was trying to, like I said, I'm only doing 2 training camps. Rest of the time it's kind of like going, I've had a deviated septum for pretty much my entire life. I had my nose operated on once because I even sound nasally, to where when that doc took those packs out of my nose, it was like, wow, I never felt so much air come into my face before. And he says, well, he's just saying, I'm glad that you're done competing. I'm thinking, whoever said I was done competing. He says, I'll probably see you again down the road. Whereas, yes, I need to go in and have one more time, one more surgical procedure done on my nose, just so I can get it right, to where, I'll ride off into the sunset, unless they come up with some type of geriatrics event.
Yeah. Just a quick fan comment here. They said your brother Dave was his carpentry teacher
at Metrotech.
So,
Metrotech, 1995. Well, again, I have 4 other brothers. One older. I'm the second on the totem pole. Brother Dave was the first one, and he's the one that actually started into amateur wrestling. And so he's the one that started this off for the family, because all 5 brothers went to college on a full athletic scholarship for the sport of amateur wrestling. And I'll just say that when he came back from college, and that he taught us more techniques that we had never seen before. So I call it like the trickle down type of syndrome. So then when I went to college, I brought back more things. We go to freestyle meets, we go to Greco-Roman tournaments, stuff like that. Even before I could drive, he's driving, and I'm over there with a Atlas. So I was GPS before there was GPS. Most people like going, "What's an Atlas?" So they may have to Google it.
Yeah.
That was the early
part about being a wrestler back then. I heard was having to worry about the atlases.
Yeah, I still keep one in my back window. Just again, do I use it every once in a while when it's kind of going when I'm in and when I flew into an area, it's like going, what exactly? I'm trying to picture. Okay, where exactly am I in the state? I'll pull up my atlas. And go, oh, there it is in the state.
Yeah, sometimes these GPSs will take you on wild goose trips.
Yes, they will.
But,
been on a few of those.
There's been a couple fans comment how much they love your theme music and they still work out to your theme music. I imagine you pretty much like that.
Well, no, I like I don't know who came up with it. I was actually kind of surprised because, the very first time I heard it was when I'm working with the WWF at the time. And, I hear this and I'm thinking, wow, that's actually some pretty cool sounding music right there. It's like going, it's like, how do you, because as you walk out to that ring or that cage as part of that persona, it's like, I always tell people that I took even tidbits from professional wrestling that carried over into my MMA career, to where putting on a good game face and the way that you walk to the cage in that, what you're doing in those final few seconds, so to whether how does it affect your opponent, if it affects them at all,
So where can fans follow you? And I know you're still taking autograph bookings and you're stepping in the ring. I think you were in a cage match not too long ago, weren't you?
Well, I did. I've done a couple professional wrestling type of things where, again, guest referee. I did a match recently, but it's kind of going. I'm slowly retiring from things as it makes sense. I always tell people I've retired from the cage fighting. So it's like, again, I say that like that, and they go, unless there's some geriatrics league that's going to be coming out there, it might be something comical to come back to. But it's, I'm looking at, when should I still want to have at least one last final professional wrestling match to where I used to be. That's like putting the dot on the exclamation mark right there. And I don't know if that will
talk
happen.
to Tony Khan about it. Sorry to interrupt, but would you ever talk to AEW and say, "Hey, I know you really appreciate the history of wrestling. Would you ever put together a retirement match for me in Michigan?"
Well, again, I don't know if I even have a contact for AEW there. So again, it's just one of those things that would I entertain it? Sure, I would entertain it. I just know that I've had some already a preliminary discussion about Japan really knows how to do a retirement match. So I may end up doing my very final match might be there, but to say that there could be a final tour or something like that, that's a possibility with like an AEW. Again, it all depends on how I'm being used and or portrayed.
Yeah, I think you would just need to it'd be worth talking to them if you could find a way to get in contact with them, because
again, hopefully someone will take out these little snippets right here and forward it out to them to say, hey, might be worth talking to Dan Severn now.
Yeah, because they could use a name like yours. I know they got a lot of acrobatic little guys, but to the old fans like me, we don't want to see those people. We'd rather watch people we grew up with.
You and I could not do all those flippity doodads or nothing like that.
No.
We're not built for that.
It seems like, though, honestly, and I don't want to waste too much more of your time, but in the old days, it was about making it look real, and now it's just how many flips can you do, and it doesn't matter about making it look real at all anymore.
Well, the sad part is it's when you're picking them up by two fingers. It doesn't. It's sometimes it just doesn't make sense. I mean, if you just simply just knock the guy down, why are you going to pick him right back up again? You should be really going down for the pinfall more and more often than instead unless you're just into this, I'm here to break him, I'm here to brutalize him, get him back on up, put up his feet. But you got to be telling that to the folks right there. Anymore, no one's saying anything. They pick him up again and again and again and again. It's like going, it just that I don't understand that, and that's where I just don't watch very many products. I'll watch something if someone sends it to me and they'll say, if it comes from someone reliable, you really should watch this match. I'll watch it then. May not make it all the way through because if it doesn't capture me in a certain time frame, and I don't want to see two fingers grabbing people by the wrist. And how did I overpower you, just grab you with two fingers and then sail you across? So.
Yeah, coming from an amateur background, it's just hard. It's hard to take that seriously.
Yeah,
sadly.
But that's where amateur wrestling. I probably shouldn't say this one. I like it myself as a real hot water, but I'm already pre-planning. I started off in amateur wrestling, and I will finish with amateur wrestling.
Oh, wow. Well, let's hope that Eric Bischoff hears that. And where can people contact you if they want to book you?
Best, my email address is dan@dansevern.com. If you get a chance to put that up, that'd be great. But that's probably the best way of contacting me. I say I've got a website, but again, it still needs some tuning up here yet. But the email address, dan@dansevern.com, is probably the best way of contacting me. And, I've got some, like I said, some good people working with me social media wise that are putting posts out left and right, but it's all stuff that I believe in. It's like, I do a lot of positive type posts, but also I like to post about amateur wrestling. I do posts about professional wrestling, mixed martial arts, even the submission grappling, because these are all things that I've been a part of. And then now it's like, even if I don't want to be a part of it, I'm a senior citizen. And it's like going, okay, now it's like, I don't have to be a feeble senior citizen. I'm out there trying to show senior citizens there's things that you can do in order to better your health type situation. There's stuff that you can Google as to what you should eat, what you should drink, what kind of sleep you should be getting. And then again, there's other stuff about waking up early in the morning and getting that first 30 to 45 minutes of sunshine.
Yeah, without sunglasses, we hear that now. Is that true?
What's that?
To get that sun in your eyes without sunglasses.
Yeah, that especially when it comes to sunrise, there's something. I can't think of what there's a couple words there for, but there's medical benefits of that first half hour to 45 minutes of that sunrise. It's good for you. And again, not to be doing with sunglasses, stuff like that, but I try to, that's what I'm looking at, that I might be rubbing the sleep out of my eyes as I'm walking outside, but I try to do that. But then there's the other thing, it's called, I think it's called earthing. Is that what it is? Oh, no, grounding. Because we wear so many synthetic type of shoes all the time that, they talk about walking around barefoot, what it does for you. The bad part is you can't really do that out in Arizona all that well. I mean, everything is blacktop, asphalt, or rocks, or there's not very many places that they actually have a lawn that you go walk around onto. But there is something, I think, that connection. I mean, you look at there's so many different like Native American type of rituals, and they were really big about the Mother Earth and what it gives to you.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I appreciate you coming on. It's always great hearing your knowledge. Hopefully we can do it again sometime. Your email address is right underneath for anyone that wants to contact Mr. Severn. And I'll let you close this off with whatever message you want to say to the fans. I hope to see you in the amateur wrestling mats again sometime.
Well, no, I do that too. Again, I'll just simply say that I'll kind of conclude it with this. The ring name, The Beast. I did not come up with the ring name, The Beast. It was given to me by the legendary NFL Hall of Famer, Jim Brown. And if you don't know who that person is, Google that name again, because he was very impressive running back, probably one of the most greatest running backs in football history. And he gave me the ring name The Beast because he couldn't believe the transformation, because he didn't know I was a fighter because he met Al Snow and I, and Al Snow looked like the fighter the way he was dressed, and here I am wearing a sports jacket, a tie, wearing my glasses. I can see up close, but from a distance, I need glasses. So, he gave me the ring name The Beast, and I came up with an acronym that I can live with. And the word THE stands for Dan Severn. I'm a teacher, humanitarian, and I'm an educator. And my message to young people is Beast. To believe in yourself, to educate yourself, to adjust your everyday attitude, to study hard, and then to teach others, because you can't take it with you. So I will close on that note. Try to be